I don't know where to begin, honestly. The words formed easily over the paper's smooth surface. I remember we were at the semi-annual Mage Ball, Remington and I. It was a beautiful night. Everyone was dressed gorgeous, and the decorations were spectacularly placed. I remember it all so vividly, even if things started off shaky. For a brief moment he paused, a sudden dreadful feeling falling over him. A wide grin flashed in his mind, rosy cheeks, a fanciful dress. It clashed harshly with the timid woman he remembered from the ball. Once time came for dinner, things began to improve. We were separated, unfortunately. Sir Heliodorus wanted to speak privately with me. I learned much about the Mage Council, and I will devolve into more detail at a later date. When I saw Remington again, others were all gathered on the dance floor in pairs. This gave me an idea, and I approached Remington with a smile. I offered my hand and asked if he'd like to dance. He was stunned at first, declaring it was odd given our status as friends. I smirked, taking his hand and reframing the offer as a waltz of comrades. He chuckled as my grin widened and took my hand in his. The two of us stepped upon the dance floor and began to dance. It was so lovely. His mind began to wander back to that moment. Even with the pen resting in his hand, he could remember the feeling of Remington's calloused fingers against his skin, the slight catch and scratch of those calluses against his tailored outfit. The prince's face, his eyes surrounded by shimmery red makeup. He looked so regal under the candlelight, but even more than that, he looked happy. The smile that stretched over his lips whenever he caught the rabbit staring. Tears starting to fill the young man's eyes. He quickly wiped them away, returning the pen to paper. The music had stopped abruptly. Shortly after, the ground began to quake. I remember Remington's hand tightening around mine as we both turned to the ceiling, where the chandeliers were starting to crack. After the first few crystals fell, Remy pulled me into his arms, holding me close while others began to panic. The council mages attempted to use their powers to keep the building from collapsing in on us. It was no use. Several chunks of ceiling fell through Miss Dyer's vines. The ice Mr. Hiver summoned cracked under the pressure, as did Sir Rurar's sand. Those in the crowd used basic levitation to hold the ceiling in place, but the ground was shaking too violently for any of us to keep our footing, which ruined our concentration, allowing piles of rock and rubble to fall on top of us. He flinched suddenly.